Greetings, friends. Welcome to the channel where we don't just list facts, but dive deep into the heart of history. We take brilliant ideas apart, piece by piece, and see how a single engineering insight can change the course of events. If you love deep dives where human drama and triumph hide behind dry numbers, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell, because today's story is incredible. It's the story of a tank that didn't just fight, it forced the entire world to rewrite the rules. And right now, I want you to do something for me. Type in the comments the first thing that comes to mind when you hear T-34. Legend, victory, or maybe something else. Your input is crucial. It creates this connection between us. Now, let's travel back to that very day. A day that became a nightmare for German soldiers and a turning point in the history of warfare. Picture it. June 1941. Somewhere near the Lithuanian town of Rzyniai. Heat, dust, thunderous noise. German infantry, high on the successes of the first days, is advancing confidently. And suddenly, a hulking mass of steel bursts from the woods. Unfamiliar, swift, with a long gun. It's a T-34, the crew of one of the most common German anti-tank guns, the 37mm Pak 35-36, quickly swings their weapon into position. They'd done this hundreds of times in Poland and France. Aim, fire, and the enemy tank goes up in flames. They are confident. The commander yells, "Fire!" The shell flies from the barrel and, with a ringing, soul-chilling sound, it ricochets off the sloped side of the Soviet machine. A second shot, the same story. The third, before the stunned Germans' eyes, this tank, like a ghost or a steel demon, keeps moving. Their primary, tried-and-true weapon is useless. This isn't just a skirmish. It's the collapse of their entire tactical playbook. The shock. And that shock reverberated across the entire Eastern Front that summer. Why did this happen? What magic did the Soviet engineers use? The secret isn't magic, but geometry. In an idea of genius in its simplicity, armor shouldn't just be thick, it should be intelligently sloped. By the late 30s, world tank design followed simple logic. To protect against more powerful guns, you had to increase armor thickness. But that's a dead end. Every extra millimeter means tons of weight. The tank turns into an unwieldy, slow, fuel-guzzling pillbox on tracks. Its engine and transmission burn out from the strain. Bridges collapse under its weight. A solution was needed, and it came from Kharkiv, from the design bureau led by Mikhail Ilyich Koshkin. These men made a revolution. They changed the very philosophy of protection. Look, imagine a vertical armor plate, say 45 millimeters thick. A shell hits it straight on at a right angle, and it has to overcome exactly those 45 millimeters of steel. Now, slope that plate at a sharp angle, say 60 degrees. What happens? First, the physical thickness of armor the shell must bite through on a straight path, the so-called effective thickness, increases dramatically. For that same 45 millimeter plate at 60 degrees, it becomes equivalent to 90 millimeters. Essentially, protection doubles without doubling the weight. Second, the chance of a ricochet skyrockets. A shell, hitting an angled surface, can simply glance off, fly away, wasting its terrifying energy for nothing. In the T-34, this idea was realized with stunning harmony. The upper front plate, 45 millimeters at a 60-degree angle, 90 millimeter equivalent. The lower front plate, the same 45 millimeters, but at 53 degrees, 75 millimeter equivalent. Even the sides, 40 millimeters at a 40-degree angle, gave an equivalent of 52 millimeters of vertical armor. This was a staggering result. A medium-class tank, 26 to 28 tons, received protection levels comparable to the heavy machines of the era. But geometry alone wasn't enough. Sloped but brittle armor could shatter on impact, or be too soft and easily pierced. Here, the metallurgists entered the game. Their story is a separate feat of heroism, often forgotten. The task was hellish. Create a steel that was both hard, to resist shell penetration, and tough, to prevent spalling and cracking, which kill the crew with fragments from the inside. This effect was called scabbing. This was tackled by the best minds at the Mariupol Ilyich plant and the Leningrad Research Institute 48. They conducted dozens of experiments, hundreds of melts, and in January 1940, steel-grade 8S, also I-8S, later MZ2, was born. This alloy became the secret weapon. It was optimal. It was what turned the brilliant theoretical idea of sloped armor into a real, formidable barrier. Let's take a moment to look at the context. What did the enemy have? Let's take the German Panzer IV Ausf. One of the Wehrmacht's best vehicles at the time. Frontal armor 50 millimeters, but placed almost vertically, meaning its real resistance was just those 50 millimeters. The vehicle already weighed over 22 tons, yet its protection was 1.5 to 2 times worse than the T-34s. And their main medium tank, the Panzer III with its 30 millimeters of vertical front, was simply helpless against the Soviet machine. The Germans were stuck in that very dilemma. More armor, more weight, worse mobility. The Russians circumvented that dilemma, with brains, not brute force. However, friends, war is an arms race. No advantage lasts forever. The Germans were talented engineers and fast learners. The shock of 41 was soon replaced by the search for an antidote. By the end of 1941, early 42, their 50mm Pak 38 appeared on the battlefield, capable of dealing with the T-34 side, and the legendary 88s, the 88mm flak anti-aircraft guns, became their primary caliber against our tanks. And here, the second, no less important genius of the T-34 revealed itself: its manufacturability and mass production capability. The Soviet leadership and designers bet not on creating an invulnerable supertank in small numbers, but on a reliable, effective, simple-to-produce machine that could be stamped out by the thousands. And that bet paid off. When protection ceased to be absolute, other factors came into play. In 1942, welded turrets made from rolled plates began to be replaced by cast ones, slightly less ballistically robust, but they could be cast at many factories much faster. At Uralmash, they even mastered a unique for-the-time technology of stamping turrets from thick plate. Imagine, a giant press churns out a finished turret in one stroke. They made about 2,000 of them. It was a forced, finicky, yet brilliant wartime solution when every hour counted. The peak of this evolution was the T-34-85, appearing in 1943. A new, spacious three-man turret, a formidable 85mm gun, and once again well-designed armor. Turret front 90 millimeters, sides up to 75. This restored the balance. Now the tank could fight Panthers and upgraded 4s on equal terms. But let's return to our main hero, the sloped armor. The success of this concept was so deafening that it forced the entire world to copy the Soviet solution. In 1943, the Germans, having studied knocked out and captured 34s, presented their answer, the PZKPFWV Panther. Look at its frontal silhouette. It's a direct evolution of the T-34's ideas. The same rational angles, the same sloped armor. The Americans, analyzing wartime experience, arrived at the same conclusion. Their post-war Pershings and the entire Patton line are a hymn to sloped armor. Even the stiff British, long clinging to their boxy shapes, adopted this concept in their magnificent Centurion tank. So what's the conclusion? We're not just talking about a successful design. We're talking about a revolution sparked by one machine. It changed not only the battlefield of 1941. It changed world tank design for decades to come. It set a new standard. Protection is intellect, its geometry, its optimization. The armor of the T-34, of course, wasn't perfect. There were vulnerable joins, the thin roof of early turrets. But its genius lay in the balance. The balance between protection, mobility, firepower, cost, and the potential for mass production. It was a true shield of the motherland, one that could be forged in the Urals and Siberian factories by the thousands. A shield that took the first, most terrible blow. A shield that did not break. That's what this story is about, friends. About how a simple yet brilliant insight to slope a plate turned the world upside down. About how Soviet engineers and workers, under the most difficult conditions, created a weapon of victory. about how sometimes, for a breakthrough, you don't need to complicate things, but rather find the most elegant and simple solution. What do you think about this? Was the victory in the Great Patriotic War due to such technological breakthroughs, or was it decided by the heroism of the common soldier? Or perhaps both are inseparable? I'm waiting for your thoughts, your debates, your questions in the comments. Let's discuss, because history isn't a set of dates, but a living fabric woven from destinies, decisions, and ideas. And if you enjoy these deep dives where we dissect the essence of great inventions, do me a favor, hit the like button for this video. And of course, subscribe to the channel. We have many more such stories ahead. About Katyushas, the IL-2 attack plane, other pivotal moments where intellect and will triumphed over numbers and technological arrogance. I promise it will be interesting. Until next time on air.